Welcome to yet another episode of the Why Not podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant Brendan Miller, Staff Sergeant type. So we are talking about something that we all hear. If you've opted in to get texts, you've seen the text every Friday here at Minot, and I think it's a good reminder. But let's talk about what it is: safe rides. It's a program that's gone by many other names in the past, but right now we're calling it Safe Rides. It's providing airmen an opportunity to make better decisions rather than to drink and drive. So, what is Safe Rides? Who wants to take that question?
Let me take it just because I want to put some history behind it.
Yeah.
So Safe Rides, the name was changed from Airmen Against Drunk Driving to Safe Rides about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
That decision was made for a couple of reasons. One, having been in the Air Force for a long time and being very familiar with the Airmen Against Drunk Driving program, I kind of felt as though there was a stigma behind Airmen Against Drunk Driving.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to be good wingmen across the board, not just for alcohol related type situations.
Right.
So we wanted to change the name in order to provide, um, you know, meet Colonel Amaran's intent of his operation design of just trying to be good wingmen from onboarding to offboarding. So we changed the name. One, because the program wasn't doing very well at the time. And there were some concerns and issues about funding and things of that nature. So we wanted to just hit the reset button. And part of that reset button was a name change. And I think so far it's worked out pretty good.
So it's gone by Airmen Against Drunk Driving in the past. Through the years, what's the evolution been like for this program? Because I'm sure even before Airmen Against Drunk Driving, it was something else, or it's gone by something else.
I've always remembered it as Airmen Against Drunk Driving, but some installations would put the installation name in front of it. So like
Yeah,
Kirtland Airmen Against Drunk Driving or Nellis Airmen Against Drunk Driving,
localized.
localized or mad or sad or whatever it was. And so I've seen that kind of materialize, but like I said, I don't think there is another program in the Air Force called Safe Ride. So
Gotcha. So we're unique in that way. What's some of the things that you've seen that are different about it, or that are unique about this program? And let's give you guys an opportunity to share what's unique about your program.
Well, Chief talked about it earlier, but it's pretty much just a rebrand. Right? Like we went from Airmen Against Drunk Driving to now Safe Ride, just to broaden the scope of what we can do. Previously, there was that negative stigma that the chief had mentioned with people just using and what do you call that? It's only for when you're drunk. Maybe when you use it, it gets reported up the chain of command.
Yeah.
Not the case at all. With Safe Rides now, broaden the scope. Now you can use it for like maybe you're at the airport, new airman coming from tech school, need a ride to get to base. Maybe it's a date gone wrong, or
Yeah.
and of course still, when you're inebriated, usually which people utilize it for, but you can use it for that as well. And it's free to all military and their spouses.
Before we go much further, I realize that like I've met some of you and we kind of just jumped into the topic, but not everybody's going to know who everybody at this table is. So let's start at the far end. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Chief Sharp, Chief Wayne Sharp. I'm the 5th Bomb Wing Command Chief.
Hmm.
Senior Airman in Gaia, work over at 5 Cons, just right across the building.
Yeah.
And glad to be here.
Thank you.
I am Senior Airman Loiza. I am part of the FSS, but I'm the VP of Safe Rides.
Okay. Yeah. So
Forgot to mention my role. Sorry.
Yeah. What's your role?
I apologize. Secretary currently.
Secretary currently. And Chief, what is your role within Safe Rides? How do you sit in all this?
I would say I'm more of an advisor,
Mhm.
and I'm there for whatever they need in regards to resources, contacts. Sometimes they have a tough time getting volunteers, and I could help facilitate getting volunteers. So I'd say more or less senior enlisted advisor.
That's kind of like your role that you take on a regular basis. But you're doing it for this program. Has it been pretty special for you guys to be part of this program?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been great. We have a great president and a Master Sergeant Cummings.
Mm.
And so the good thing is I haven't really had to have a full hands-on approach with it because she's done a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to make my job a little bit easier for sure.
And then I feel like you wanted to say something earlier before I cut us all off, but what do you think is so special about this program?
I think the program is really special. Just one, because we are able to provide more support to our airmen. We all know we all make mistakes, but that's not defining a person. One moment doesn't define a whole person. So I think it's really special because we're not only providing support to those that are going out and having fun, but it's also for people who are maybe in uncomfortable situations and they don't know how to get out of them. So also, I believe a lot of airmen in the dorms that don't have cars and have had emergencies happen,
Yep.
they're also able to use us. So it's not only for, yeah, I had a little too much to drink and I didn't think of a plan B or C. It's also to get airmen out of uncomfortable situations and then get them safe. I think that's one of the biggest part on why I joined initially. I wanted to make a change, and I think we've been able to do that so far.
Yeah, that's always something that, if you put a name like Airmen Against Drunk Driving, yeah, you limit people's mental scope of what we're going to be able to do. Safe rides, yeah, I hadn't heard anyone pitch that angle of like maybe you're somewhere where you feel like I shouldn't be here right now and I need help to get out of it. Safe rides.
Yeah.
And even that idea of, hey, I'm at the airport and no one's picking me up. I need someone to assist me.
Yeah.
Hopefully this episode, like people see stuff like this before they come to Minot and they're like, oh, I can take advantage of these programs.
Absolutely.
So, and your sponsor should get you from the airport. If you're showing up to Minot, and my sponsor hasn't reached out to me at Ramstein yet. What's that about?
Mine hasn't reached out to me from the Pentagon either.
Okay. Well, you're on black.
I'm joking.
So you're on notice. Please reach out to us so that we can get some help. But hey, if you're coming to Minot, hopefully that you hear this and you feel like, if nothing else, you can get help from Safe Rides. So we've talked about what's special about this program. What do we risk when we decide, hey, you know what? I've only had a few drinks. I've had like 3 or 4. I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And we know what the legal limit is. But sometimes people take that risk anyway. What are we risking when we get behind the wheel in that state?
Yeah, I mean, you're risking a whole lot. You're risking your career.
Mm.
You're risking losing your life. You're risking killing someone. You're risking jail time.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, you're risking it's unnecessary risk is what I'll say.
Right.
And the fact that you even need to make that kind of decision, to me is unfortunate. I think we do a good job of trying to negate by having programs like this.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, at this point in time on this installation alone, we've had 13 DUIs and we're just outside of the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
If we continue on this rate, we'll be right around 62 to 64 DUIs when last year we had 44. And so I say that to say, this isn't about statistics, but out of that 66 or 64 we could have, one of those could lead to a death.
Right.
Of yourself or somebody else. And so it's a lot of risk, it's a lot of risk. I don't know if y'all have anything to add to that.
I was gonna say, sir. I know you had mentioned in one of the previous all calls, but as far as the process goes, if you could remind people what happens when they do get a DUI.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people don't understand, there's 2 different, phases of a DUI. You have your off the installation DUI and you have your on the installation DUI. Now, if you get a DUI off the installation, right off the bat, a civil conviction is an automatic admin separation determination off the bat. In order to be retained, your commander has to agree that you can be rehabilitated. And at that point, they have to do an exception to policy waiver to retain that individual. The convening authority at that point will say, I either believe this person can rehabilitate it, which is our wing commander, or I don't believe he can be rehabilitated, and they choose to separate or retain that individual.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get a DUI on the installation, in most cases, you're going to get an Article 15. And probably get demoted. And that's a 3-year mistake because you're probably going to get a referral EP. Well, you will get a referral EPR. So there's a whole lot more levels to that. But in the big scheme of things, civilian, versus on the installation, kind of different, but one and the same.
Yeah.
One leads to a separation, the other can lead to a separation, but in most cases on Article 15.
Yeah, geez, that's
Not
I'm
worth it.
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is just a bunch of legal proceedings and paperwork and things that none of us need to be tied up in.
Yeah.
There's enough going on in everybody's lives and careers that we don't need that extra stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we know better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I believe that when you drink and drive, you are making a conscious decision,
Yeah.
you know, to do it. You know, and I think one of the big things we need to kind of keep in mind is, you know, everybody says I thought I was good. But any type of circumstance where you have to think you're good and not know is not a risk worth taking.
Correct. Now, I remember cases where people have been able to flip their careers around, and that has been, you know, like their wake up call to, oh, I need to get my life back under control. And it hasn't stopped their careers. I've met chiefs who said, yeah, I made that one mistake and I never made another mistake like that again. But what are we seeing now as compared to like maybe the past? Is it commander? Does it vary commander by commander, or is it kind of like, hey, across the board, we're just intolerant of this?
It's across the board intolerant.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll be the first to tell you, like, I truly believe in rehabilitation.
Mhm.
I know Colonel Lamoran truly believes in rehabilitation, but there comes a point where if we're not sending the proper message,
Right.
then people aren't necessarily thinking effectively or properly about the decisions they're making. There are some units on this installation that are a little more ironclad on the decisions they're making in regards to separation.
Mhm.
And then there's some that are a little more flexible in rehabilitation, you know, and I think, you know, from the wing perspective, we do a pretty good job of not trying to, you know, push somebody in a certain push a commander in a certain direction.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, you know, you do need to be held accountable. And I think
Right.
that's happening pretty well. We do a pretty good job of that.
So I wanted to talk about, like, safe rides came as a result of people thinking outside the box. We're presented with, hey, Airmen Against Drunk Driving. And we're like, hey, we need to figure out a different way to do this program. Are there other ways, other ideas that have been presented that, hey, you're seeing some effectiveness with a different way to handle this problem, or other programs where you're like, hey, maybe we need to rethink how we're doing that?
I think I'm the old guy in the room, so
I think Staff Sergeant Noakes, I can't really speak on it, but is currently working on a DUI task force.
Yeah.
How that's gonna be implemented and how that's gonna work alongside Safe Rides, I'm not too sure yet.
We do have something exciting coming up. It's nothing set in stone yet, but we do have someone who is really good with technology, and they're willing to help us out, create like an app for safe ride, so it's easier without. I know technology and everything. Sometimes making a call, it's too hard. So, but having an app on your phone that you can just ask for a ride, and then it's just gonna be easier on the administrative side with the dispatcher and then the drivers, and then also being able to provide more accurate times to the person who's using the service, because a lot of the times we get a lot of calls, but then sometimes the drivers are on base, so they have to drive all the way to town. And sometimes the people don't want to wait. And I understand. It's minor. Sometimes it's really cold and you don't want to be sitting outside waiting for your ride. But sometimes that wait, it's more worth it than just getting in somebody else's car. It might not be you driving, but it might be somebody else. And you lose your life, you lose something. And there's always something to lose.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think the Safe Rides, this team right here, has actually done a really good job of linking with the local community for some different you know, initiatives in order to make one, you know, people want to volunteer for Safe Rides, but
Yeah.
two, make people want to use it. And if I'm not mistaken, they now are getting ready to be located down at the Minot State University, where they have a room that they can house out of, where they don't have to be housed off the installation, which decreases response time by about 30 minutes. They're getting gas cards to a relationship with the Northern Century
Yeah.
newspaper, where they're giving gas cards out to people to, you know, help, you know, offset some of the costs cost it costs to utilize their vehicles, along with an assortment of other things that are going on. We have a good relationship with our installation resiliency office, and they also have some things that they're doing in conjunction with the DUI task force. So we're getting after it in as many creative ways. I mean, you can only do so much, but we're trying to squeeze the juice out of that limit as much as possible to make the program worthwhile.
Well, you didn't say it directly, but you bring up this great point of if you're trying to stop a problem where there's a few people who are making poor decisions in your community, it takes everybody in the community to watch out for each other. And we're lucky that we have a really good relationship with the city of Minot, in that they can say, hey, the stuff that's happening to you, because you're with us, it's happening to us too, and we want to do something to help.
Yep.
And hearing like, hey, we're gonna open up an office for you downtown so that you can respond faster, or we're gonna make it easier for you so that it's not such a burden to the driver to pay for all this gas. Like, that's thinking as a community. That's people stepping up to help one another. So, and that's kind of what Safe Rides does anyway, right? How do these drivers even get decided upon? How many volunteers do we have?
On average, we have 7 to 8 volunteers per weekend. We do quote unquote delegate units for a specific weekend. Everything is volunteer based. So honestly, this program will not be able to be successful without the volunteers. But we made it a little bit easier. Designating units every weekend, so they know that if it's their weekend, then they will send out emails to their unit, and then we have volunteers that way. So it's squadron based, and then also it's open to anyone. So there's people that volunteer every other weekend or every single weekend, which I think it's very selfless in itself, because they're taking time out of their weekend and less sleep hours and everything. So yeah, that's on average what we get. Whenever we don't have enough volunteers, then the council also takes on that responsibility, and there's always someone on call. So if you call and somebody's not calling, let me tell you, one of us is getting the call.
Yeah.
So we always try to do our best. Also, the local bars are great. We have great support from them. We had some coasters, and they have their coasters at the bar whenever you're getting your check, so you can see the Safe Rides number. So please make the right decision.
Yeah, getting brand recognition. Like, part of what we're doing here is talking about Safe Rides so that we can get it in front of people's eyes and in their ears. But small little branding things like having a coaster. I think the best thing that I've ever seen with this program or any other like it is that when I went to senior NCO induction ceremony with my wife, one of the volunteers just walked up and he said, "I'm Airman so-and-so. I'm from FSS. I'm one of the Safe Ride drivers. So if you need a ride home, come find me. I'll be right over there." And that's sort of grassroots, like, hey, I'm gonna work the room. I'm gonna make sure everybody knows about the program and knows who I am and doesn't forget that they have an option. Branding's great, but meeting people is everything.
Yeah, building the connection, and it's one of the things Safe Ride does that I appreciate is they wear vests.
Yeah.
I mean, they're easily identifiable. They're looking like they're about to do some street work. Like, I'm like, oh, that's the whole crew. And I think the other pieces, I know that there are quite a few dedicated, committed folks that you can depend on at all times. I see some of the same folks all the time. And I'll tell you, people believe in the program. I really appreciate the fact that the ad hoc comes out every Friday. I know at Friday at 3:30 it's going to come out.
Yeah.
It's going to hit your phone. And the beautiful thing about that is a lot of people don't know ad hoc costs money.
Yeah.
And this installation is willing to spend the money necessary to try to prevent, DUIs. We know Safe Rides isn't the answer to everything, but it is part of the answer. And so at the end of the day, I really appreciate the work that this team is doing to make it a success.
Yeah, you talking about how it's more complicated than just being like, oh, we have a program, and if people wanted to make good decisions, they would just do it. Like everything that happens before, like surrounding yourself with good people, and then having the network to make that good. If it's not going to be Safe Rides, it needs to be somebody. Like, you'd call me if you felt like, oh, I I need to get somewhere safe. I'm not going to make a good decision if I'm drinking. So you have airmen who work with you. Use one of the airmen. If they said no, I'm not going to come get you. Well, all right. Now we know what could happen, and it's always the responsibility of the person who's making the decision to drive. But if you call out to me and ask for help and I say no, like I'm not my brother's keeper, but I am.
Right.
I wanted to ask about generational differences because I don't know how old are you guys?
I'm 22.
22,
Turning 21
turning
next week.
21.
But,
Okay,
yeah.
so Gen Z, and I've heard a lot of reports. This is basically people in the alcohol industry who are mad that young people aren't drinking as much, but roughly 20% of people in Gen Z are drinking less than people who are older than they are, like generations before them, millennials and whatnot. So what's going through your mind? Like, why aren't you, like, you don't have to speak for everybody, but is that something that you see among you and your peers, that you're just not as interested in alcohol? You're like,
I don't. Oh man, I don't know necessarily about my peers, but I think part of the reason why people are drinking less as a whole could be from experiences that they had, maybe their upbringing. They saw that how alcohol really ruined their like how it ruined people's lives and whatnot,
yeah,
and how that affected them. So I think people are just I like to think that people are just making better decisions and having a healthier relationship with it, because it's not like you can't drink, but just more
yeah,
more control.
yeah. We definitely aren't saying that.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of it is the way people connect
Mm.
back then or
Yeah,
back in my day, as opposed to how they connect now. There was a lot more in person communication, and when you're kind of socializing over a drink. I mean, we could say the same thing about how many people smoke cigarettes now. It's
yeah,
kind of the same, same kind of comparison is people look at things different. There's more communication over the phone. I'm not judging anybody, so don't take me there, but FaceTime, my daughter calls me on FaceTime and I'm like, why you call me on FaceTime? Like, we could just talk on the phone real quick and hang up. But it's a lot more electronic communication as to where so you're not socializing in a public forum as much as you used to. I think that's part of the reason.
yeah.
We could go on and on for days, but I think that plays a little bit of a role in it.
Yeah, I do also like to think that people are making healthier decisions,
Mhm.
that people are more focused on taking care of their bodies.
Right.
And I mean, I drink occasionally, but I do know that as I've gotten older, I feel like the effect afterwards, where I feel like kind of more tired. I didn't get good sleep if I drank the night before, makes it less worthwhile to me. So I think maybe our relationship to alcohol will change, and maybe someday we won't need safe rides anymore
Right.
because people will all know like how to take care of themselves. But in the meantime, here we are. We've got to put that message out there.
Absolutely. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need safe rides, but I'll tell you, you're 100% right. I'm 47 years old, and me drinking, the recovery phase is about 3 days. It's rough. You know what I mean? And so I say all that to say, generation wise, we could try to figure out what the reason it is, but the ultimate thing is, regardless of the percentage, I just need people to make smart decisions.
Yeah.
100%. And that decision is call safe rides. They're here for you. We have selfless people that want to help you do the right thing. Utilize them as a resource.
Well, last call for important things that you want to say. Uh, anything you want to put out into the world before we cut out?
I was just gonna say, please volunteer. We're always looking for more volunteers. Can't get enough of them. Uh, it should be on. It is on the ad hoc that you see. It's also on posters everywhere across the base for the QR code for you to sign up. Always looking for volunteers.
I would just like to give some numbers on the impact that Safe Rides has had.
Sure.
As of last year, we saved 130 lives.
Yep.
We had about 100 calls, and our volunteers gave about 2,210 hours of their time to keep our community protected and to keep our careers going. So this program is really important, not just for the people who are doing it, but for the people who are receiving this help. It's also for families. So always keep that in mind. There's always someone caring for you, even if you don't know them. And please follow our Facebook.
Yes.
That too.
Absolutely.
I want to say thank you for all your time. Obviously, this program matters to all of you. I think it should matter to everybody. So we will put the number for Safe Rides in the post. You'll see it there. But yeah, please make sure that you're using those ad hoc messages, because that number does save lives. So thank you again for all your time, and we'll catch you in the next one.